Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Math with Mr. Hey everybody, and today we are looking more in depth at slope, and more specifically we are looking at this equation, y equals mx plus b. And if you're wondering, like, what is that equation? That seems like a pretty crazy equation. This equation is also known as Slope Intercept Form. So your math teachers are always going to be talking about putting equations into slope intercept form, and this is the form that they are meaning. So if you're looking at all those letters, you're going like, what is all that? I am going to highlight really what it means. And we should already have a general idea about some of these things. So the first thing is, the first part of it is called slope, right? So the slope part of this is the m. So remember that slope means rate. So I'm going to put down all the different kind of things about this. And if you've seen other videos on this, m is slope, slope is rate. So that's what we're kind of looking at there. And then the other part, of course, is your intercept form. And in specifically, this b thing, we call this the y-intercept. Now, if you're an American football fan, you know intercept is when you kind of go and grab something or cross off something or something like that, right? So this is what it will be, and sometimes we say this is like 0, b. Sometimes you'll see that a little bit as well. And just to draw a little picture of what this is here is our graph. Remember, this is an x-axis, and over here is your y-axis. So when you're going to draw a line, say you drew a line like this, what the b there, the y-intercept, it's this point right there. So it's this point right there. That's what it is. Where does that blue line cross the y-axis? So that's what we're really looking at. So slope-intercept form, this is what we're going to be getting into a little bit. And we're going to have some more words here. So we're going to have something called linear equations. So you're going to have a whole bunch of vocab a little bit. So linear equations. And I'm just going to try and simplify this a little bit. So a linear equation is simply a straight line. And when you have a straight line, you obviously have a consistent rate of change, or a consistent rate. So again, rate is slope. So when you have a linear equation, it's doing that. So that's something to kind of start off with. And then the other part is, which I want to talk about a little bit, which is your y-intercept. And we usually use the letter b in that equation. You know what? I've seen some textbooks use the letter c, which really causes all sorts of issues. Because like, what do you mean? I thought it was b. Well, sometimes mathematicians used, so sometimes this is actually called c up there. So don't be all freaked out if it does. But basically, a y-intercept is your starting point. And I'm going to give you an example, kind of like a real world example, to kind of get into and to kind of discuss this. So however you take your notes or you kind of think through things, here we go. I'm going to make it something that is probably going to be, I don't know, pretty accessible by everybody. And we're going to talk about mobile phone plans. So mobile phone plans. And I'm going to give you 3 fictitious mobile phone plans, okay? I'm going to be super creative. I'm going to call them A, B, and C. So plan A. Plan A is going to say it's $30 per month. So it's $30 per month. So no matter what, it's going to be $30 per month. And it's going to be $10 for every gig. Every gigabyte used. Here, should I use GB instead? Sure. So it's $10 for every gig used. So if you don't use any money, sorry, if you don't use any data, it's just 30 bucks. Okay, so that's plan A. We're gonna have plan B, which is like awesome. Like I love plan B. Plan B is 90 bucks. What? So it's $90 per month. And you get unlimited data. What? Unlimited data? You can sit back and just watch more of my math videos all day long. Or maybe some other YouTube videos, right? It's unlimited data. So that's your plan B. And what else can we get in there? Let's get a plan C. We got plan C, which is, you know, kind of in between. It's $50 per month. So a little more expensive. But this one is only $5 per gigabyte. That's all your dollars, right? So a little bit less for your gigabytes, but a little more higher end cost. So these are the kinds of things, and really what are we talking about here? So we have rates, which is slope, and then we have our intercepts. So think about what is the rate here. So what is the rate going to be? So the rate is this stuff. Oops, let's not use blue. Let's not use blue, let's use yellow. So these are the rates, right? So those are the rates. And they're consistent. And then what else do we have? We have these things, which is like your starting point. So it's going to be like your y-intercepts. Because that's what the initial charge is, isn't it? If we're going to go onto a graph, so what would this look? So what plan would you choose? Now it depends, of course, of how much data do you use. You know, that's going to be really important. But if you had, oops, let's not use that color. You know, and so here you go. So you got your money on this axis, and you have your kind of your gigabytes on this axis, right? So your money is dependent on your gigs that you use. So let's go take a look at that first one. So that first one, say it starts at 30 bucks. So I'm going to put a little dot here. Remember, this is my y-axis, right? So this is your y-intercept, your B, and it starts at 30 bucks, and it's going to go up. So do you see how it's very straight line? So it's linear. It's linear, which is pretty cool. And then we have our B option. Now it starts at $90, so it starts way up here, right? So this is B, and it's just a flat line like this, straight line, because it never increases, right? No matter how much data you use. And then we finally have this option C, which costs a little bit more, but think about the slope, the rate. Is 5 smaller or bigger than 10? Hopefully you guys know it's smaller. So when I do my arrow, is going to be up like this, or up like this. So it's about the steepness, isn't it? Well, you guessed it, it's going to be a little bit less steep than the green one. It's a little gentler because your slope is smaller. And you get something like that. Now, these ones all have really important little dots, because the dots here, where these things cross, are your decision-making points, aren't they? Because these dots represent how much money you pay for how much gigs you use. So if I was going to draw a little line, like here's like, I don't know, 4 gigs, I don't know, 8 gigs, who knows what it is, right? But those points are when certain deals become better to use. So I think if you said like this, like let's just hypothetically say we all used 7 gigs, right? We all used 7 gigs. And you had option A, B, and C. How much money would you spend if you used 7 gigs for option A? Well, you'd have your $30, your initial 30, and then you'd have 7 gigs per $10, right? Or $10 per gig. So that would equal $100. Ooh, that's quite a bit. But let's say in option B, you just have $90. That's it. And option C, it'd be your initial 50 plus your 5 times 7. So that would be $85. So in this scenario, which option would you choose? Option C, of course. Here's my question, of course, is when would you change from option C to something else? Let's say you used 9 gigs. Let's say you use 9. Let's make that a different color. Let's say you use 9. What would happen here? Well, now if you use 9 gigs, well, now all of a sudden this becomes 95. This still is 90. And what would happen here? Be 120. So how many gigs do you need to use to make something to be a different kind of option? That is kind of what you need to be kind of figuring out. Or if you just use 2 gigs, you know, if you used, or 1 gig, like say you used 1 gig, just one little gig, then what would happen? So 1 gig, right? So you're over here, you're 1 gig. So that option A there, if you used 1 gig, it'd be simple, it'd be $40. But if you use it for option B, it'd be 90, not a very good option. And option C for 1 gig, that would be 55. So in that scenario, you would use option A. So it really depends on how many gigs you're using. That's what we're kind of looking at. Now, what do all these kind of options mean? So if we got to go write things in slope intercept form, so that's what it's going to kind of be, slope intercept form, what would it be? So here we go. So in slope intercept form, so option A, we had B, and we had C. So for option A, we would say this, and we're always filling in your slope, and we're filling in the starting point, your y. That's what you're always doing. So what is your slope, and what was your starting point? I'm kind of doing it this way just to kind of show you a little bit of how it looks. So remember for option A, what did we say for option A? The starting point was it $30? Gosh, I just wrote it down. I should really remember this. I think it was $30. And how much did the rate change? Well, at 10. So we had 10x plus 30. Then for option B, you just started at 90, and that was it, right? There was nothing else. Well, that's easy. And a little hint, what's 0 times x? It's just 0. So we would actually write this as y equals 90. Notice there's no more x. And for this one, you started at 50, and you had this. So 5x plus 50. That's how you would go and start to write those sorts of things. So that gives you a little bit of idea of how we're using the slope intercept form. We also need to know just a little bit of some tricky stuff. So I want to go over some tricky things with you. So some tricky things, and of course I like to call these common kid mistakes as well. So tricky plus k m's. Okay. So here we go. And this is in no particular order whatsoever. So the very first one is undefined slopes or zero slope. So I'm going to draw somebody here. I still don't know if I'm a big fan of this, but it's called the slope guy. Have you seen the slope guy? Here's the slope guy. This is something I saw another teacher use, so I'm going to try it. Let's try it, right? Growth mindset, all that kind of fun stuff. So this might help. I'm going to draw some eyes, and some different colors of things, just to kind of make it look a little bit. And I'm going to use this slope person to kind of talk through what I'm going to show you. And I don't even know if you like this drawing. It's kind of weird. It kind of has a straight face. Okay, there we go. All right, so undefined slope. So you're going to see things that say that your slope is undefined. Remember, slope is m. So these are things like m equals undefined. This is different than m equals 0. So an undefined slope, see the u right here? See this u? An undefined slope, just so one thing, so what an undefined slope looks like, it basically looks like a straight vertical line. Like this. And we would write this, this is kind of weird always, we would just say x equals, for this one it's negative, right? So say negative 5. Let's say this was 5. 4, 3, 2, 1, like that. And then you have slope is 0, so m equals 0. So for these ones, you would write these ones as y equals, this would probably be like 3 or something like that. 3, 2, 1, like that. This is y equals 3, this is x equals negative 5. Slope is undefined for this one, and this is like that. So that's one thing that always kind of confuses kids a little bit when you have to be doing that. We have more. That's the first tricky one. The second tricky. The second one, and these are in no particular order, is when you have things like this, y equals x plus 3, let's just say. And I asked you, what's your slope? You're looking for the m. Remember, slope is m. Where is the m in this one? Do you see it? Do you see it there? Well, it's hiding. It's hiding in front of that x. It's just a 1. So m is 1. So remember, if it's just a plain x, we would say the m that is sitting there is 1, and there you go. That's the second tricky thing. And the third tricky thing is negative signs. You have to choose either, and it doesn't matter, top or bottom for your slope. So what do I mean by that? Let's just see. This is what I mean. Let's say you had y equals, I'm going to write it really meanly, negative 2/3, there we go, x, I don't know, take away 8, sure. So where is your m? Where is your slope for this one? So this is your slope. So that's your m. So what is it going to be? It's either going to be negative 2 over 3. Notice how I wrote that. Or it could be 2 over negative 3. It can't be negative 2 over negative 3. Because what's a negative and a negative? Right? So if this was really negative and negative, it would turn it into a positive. So be very careful of that. So there's a little bit more talking about slope and rate and the slope intercept form. Hope you enjoy. Thanks all you math Padawans out there for doing a great job with slope. It is a complex topic that we will dive into in more videos. Until next time, do good things. Have a great day.